So, Medarot Survivors, folks. I um I gotta say, after a little over 24 hours, just about 2 days now, actually, since the first drop of the promotional video for it, and Medarot Day as well, talking about it. I have to say, boy, there's not really a nice way to say this, being completely honest, and I felt that seeing a lot of mixed reviews about it, and that's putting it incredibly lightly. Um, I kind of felt the need to want to kind of put my overall thoughts on the idea and the release and talking about it, and just kind of my overall thoughts. Partially because my anniversary coverage stream was just a little scuffed on the back end and wasn't necessarily able to capture a lot of the discussion. And if it did, great. But I wanted to kind of take a minute and address a lot of the concerns and a lot of the comments and everything I've seen people sharing, both on the EN side and on the JP side as well, as far as overall reception of Medarot Survivor as a whole. Now, before I do go any further, though, for folks that are tuning in and have no clue what I'm talking about, just a little bit of context is Medarot Day 2024 was yesterday, Thanksgiving 2024 as well. The oh boy, the coincidence and the timing was just impeccable this year. Anyway, but Medarot Day was celebrating 27 years of the series since its first title launch back in 1997, and the big reveal for this year, as they've been teasing for it over the course of these last couple of years, and not really showing their hand and talking about it until like the very last possible minute. Um, it was it led to a lot of hype, and then actually launching and showing off and talking about Medarot Survivor, it kind of fell flat. But Medarot Survivor, for those that are unaware or have not seen the trailers yet, they've been making rounds. It is a brand new endeavor that's being launched by Imagineer, but it is basically going to be a Medarot clone, or Medarot equivalent, I should say, of a lot of your typical Survivor type games. So like Vampire Survivors or Hollow Cure, as two really good examples and very prominent examples of the genre, which kind of which kind of set the standard and kind of gave us an idea of what to expect with it. Overall, compared to Metal S, it looks, especially in the trailers and in the gameplay, it doesn't look like it's going to be anything that's going to be like super in depth or very difficult to understand, much like it might be with a lot of my thorough breakdowns of like part skills and mechanics and everything like that. Imagineer stated that it will be launching sometime around February 2025. They do have a pre-register campaign going on where if they meet a milestone before then, which I highly expect they will, they will be handing out some extra characters for it for free on day of launch, and of course it will be going up as well. But that's the general idea, and that was a good chunk of what they talked about on Medarot Day's coverage over the 2 hour time slot they had. Now, as for the reception of the reveal and talking about it, that's oh boy, that's a whole nother story. It was very mixed, very mixed between a lot of yays. This is a neat new thing, to a lot of this is what we waited all these years on and looks really bad and feeling really disappointed. And it's been incredibly divisive ever since the reveal, and I've tried to keep a lot of community control with trying to make sure people at least stayed respectful, of course, within server rules and everything when talking about it. I'm not, of course, gonna be a tyrant and say you can't say anything bad about it and whatever, but because people are entitled to their opinions. But I wanted to kind of take a minute and just kind of offer my personal unbiased thoughts about the matter. Just kind of looking over the feedback over the last couple days and just kind of putting it out there. Um, I think the short answer to providing all of it, to basically summarizing the entirety of Medarot Survivor's reveal, is overhyped but underdelivered. They really did a good job of hyping it up and talking about it, and really getting the community excited for Medarot Day. But when they revealed that Medarot Survivor was the only thing that they really had on the docket to talk about, that it kind of left a lot of the community deflated and kind of wondering, what else is there? This obviously can't be it. There has to be something more to it. And I will admit that I am also part of that demographic of kind of bummed that there really wasn't anything else that was revealed or talked about. But yeah, some people got really brutal with their comments and with their disappointment. I think is the really good term to use for the overall reveal and saying that this was basically all we got. I know me and Ruben talked about it pretty heavily in depth over the course of my Medarot Day coverage. Link to that also is on my channel if you guys want to go take a look at that. Apologies for the scuff ahead of time if there is any. Um, but like I said, I want to take a couple minutes and just kind of break down a number of the really big arguments that I've seen about, and really big complaints that I've seen about what people think about it and why they're upset. Just kind of looking at the really hastily thrown together notes I'm putting up here. The first of which that I've seen a lot of people say is it's another mobile game, and I know that kind of turns off a lot of people. Mobile when you see something and then see it's really being released as a mobile game, that does kind of turn off a lot of people, and they're not really super keen on the idea of mobile games in comparison to, say, PC launches or console titles or something similar. I understand that. It's got a very negative connotation to it, and there's a lot of stigma around mobile games that make it really hard to want to stomach or even play. I understand that, but I do also want to point out that compared to a lot of other places where they're releasing games, such as on platforms like the PlayStation or the Switch or even on Steam, um, mobile games, unfortunately, financially is kind of where it's at. And that's why a lot of these really big companies, such as, say, Nintendo or Sony or a lot of these other places, are really putting a lot of effort into trying to bank on mobile games, at least somewhere, to try to help keep cash revenue flowing. Even if it's not a lot, it's still a platform that a lot of people, basically everybody's on. So they really don't have to worry too much about promoting it or talking about it because the algorithms of the app stores are going to pump it around and cycle it around for people to find anyway. And that's going to be the easiest way that they can advertise and and reach out to their audience without actually having to um, outwardly put out any advertisements or actively speak about it or pay for advertising space on internet forums or on streaming platforms or anything similar. It's mostly for the inorganic engagement for the most part is being able to put it out there and leave it there and just kind of let it speak for itself and let the algorithm cycle it in and out. Um, a lot of people will say in Bakura, there should be a title on the Switch incoming, or even on Steam. It's a very easy to put it's very easy to put games on there as well, and I understand. But I do also want to point out the fact, especially with a lot of cases like the Switch, where if they want to kind of bounce off what they did with the Classics Plus collection and put it on the Nintendo Switch. Well, I'm 100% against it. I'm 100% for it. Is we do have to remember that at time of recording, Nintendo did state very clearly that in this next fiscal year we are going to be hearing more information on the Switch 2 that is upcoming. They've confirmed it exists, it's incoming, and they're going to talk about it and possibly have a release date for it. So, to me at least, it doesn't make a lot of sense to hype up and talk about a brand new game that's coming out in quite literally 3 months. Not even 3 months, being completely honest. It doesn't make a lot of sense to want to reveal a new Switch title or platform title now when there's already very strong confirmation that we're going to be getting a stronger or newer console in the future that they're planning to release on. Now, I understand that they said the Switch is backwards compatible, and that really shouldn't be too much of an issue. I understand. But looking at it from at least an outsider looking in, I personally would much rather wait for the new hardware to drop before I release a title for it. Whereas if I were to release a Switch title now, I would already have to fight with the fact that the newer title is going to have all these brand new staple games to showcase its stronger power or higher specs or whatever, and the backwards compatibility is kind of going to be an afterthought, where it's great to have, but it's going to be kind of more battling and PR effort on the back end in order to try to hype it up and get it out there. But that is only my opinion on it. Same thing can be said for Steam. Now, Steam is just a little different in the fact that you can basically stick it and it's guaranteed to sit there forever until Steam takes it down, and it's pretty tough to take stuff down from Steam. Um, I really have no argument for you on that one because I think putting Medarot games or even something like Medarot Survivor on Steam would be a fantastic idea because just based on the gameplay alone, it's a very chill, very laid back game, very casual game specifically. So it's not going to require a lot of effort or mind or a lot of understanding, especially for Western audiences to play. And it would be really nice if they were to consider that in the future, whether as an alternative endeavor or something they can look at later. Um, they did, however, say that Medarot Survivor is going to be staying Japan only, which is kind of expected, I guess, with Medarot S being the same case. So I'm not really paying too much to that point specifically. But that's just my overall thoughts. As much as it sucks, mobile gaming is kind of the it thing right now when it comes to wanting to advertise to the biggest audience out there because everybody's going to have a mobile device and access to an app store somewhere. So if you want the most inorganic or machine engagement, I guess you can call it, with while putting in the least amount of work, that is kind of the way to go. The other question I had was that not question I should say, sorry, force a habit. The other big concern I saw with a lot of people is it's cheap looking. The effects they use for attacks or the arts or the chibi art style doesn't look very engaging or very clean or dynamic, I guess you could say, in comparison to a lot of the art that we saw in say Medarot S or something similar. And I understand that the very simple style isn't necessary for everyone. But I do want to point out a couple of things, even with my limited knowledge of game dev and content creation and art and 3D modeling, is the fact that it takes a lot of work. Even the very simple things that look very cheap or very plain looking on the back end, it takes a lot of internal wiring to be able to get it to do what you want. 3D models are a perfect example of that. You can't just make a model and expect it to be done and animate it right away. There's a lot of back end rigging and texturing and UV mapping that goes into making a model look really, really nice and make it do what you want. And I'm going to stand in defense of that argument specifically for as far as the art is concerned, because even if it doesn't look as dynamic or fancy, it still does take a lot of effort to get to that point. And the cheap looking and everything like that, I understand that sometimes it's an aesthetic thing, especially with what we've been so used to with the very dynamic and very high quality art that we had in Medarot S. And I understand that. Please do not take this as me trying to shut down and counteract and refute every single argument. This is just my personal thoughts on it. But it is the style that they did choose to go for with Medarot Survivor, and me personally, I'm okay with it. I don't mind it. In fact, I actually find the chibi style quite adorable. Um, that might be just a personal preference of mine with how I choose to go after my own art or just things that I particularly enjoy with my taste and aesthetic. And like I said, it's not for everybody, but I feel calling art cheap or bad looking directly toward it without actually like considering all the effort that goes into making it even move or look that way on the back end. I feel that's kind of not fair to it. And like I said, I'm not trying to refute people, but what I'm trying to say is I'm not sure how to phrase this. It's more having knowledge in the back end of what goes into making something work and making it run and everything like that. It kind of has given me a little more of appreciation for seeing a lot of this. Like even something as simple as a vampire survivor game, or a survivors type game in general, is very simplistic looking. And I'm going to get to that actually on the next on the other really big argument that I've been seeing currently. Um, Even with the very simple stuff like that, I don't necessarily look at a game at face value and say, "Oh, well, it looks too simple or it looks too cheap or too plain or whatever." I'm very mechanically minded. So I often take a look at, okay, cool. Well, what exactly goes in the back end of having to make it look like it's running or touching something or interacting with an item or an enemy, or how certain menus or UI systems behave. You guys are going to tell me, but Curry, you should look into game dev. And I tried. I tried. I'm still looking into it. I just don't have the time. But just with my limited knowledge of modeling and art on the back end, and even my very extremely limited knowledge of live 2D rigging and everything like that, it's there's a lot that goes into it. So that's just my take on it. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with the art style. I really do like it. A number of my friends actually said that the stuff like the effects, like they use for like the missile or the rifles or the bullets or the sword swinging patterns and everything, do look a little little generic, and I understand that. But we do have to remember as well that that trailers are not oftentimes the end product. And if they choose to kind of take a lot of this constructive feedback, putting it nicely, and reflect on it and kind of tweak a couple things here and there between now and release. Um, it's subject to change or subject to be modified or cleaned up a little bit. A lot of times, placeholder stuff is used in trailers, especially with very simple endeavors like this, just to kind of prove a working concept more than an end result. So that's just my take on it. The last thing the last really big argument that I've been seeing floating around is this is but they're wondering if this is indeed 2 years of development, and they feel kind of deflated or disappointed that this was kind of the only thing they had to show for 2 years. And I'm going to kind of tie back to the argument of game dev is while even something as simple as a survivors type game, or even a roguelike or a platformer or something similar, it may look very simple as an end result, but it takes a lot of internal wiring on the back end just to make it do the very simple thing. Even my very limited knowledge of Unity and game making in there from my VR chat days is so much of a confirmation of this. Is even making something as simple as making a character move on a command, such as say with a keyboard or a touch stroke. It takes a lot of wiring on the back end and a lot of configuring to get it to look right. So I wouldn't necessarily discount it by saying it looks cheap because it's only 2 years development. It takes a lot of it takes a lot of internal wiring to make it look that good. So be a little gentle with it on that front where it takes a lot of effort. That's the only way I can really phrase it. Is while I too am upset and a little bummed that this was kind of the only thing they talked about, like I said, um, I guess you could say I'm more of a neutral stance on it. Like I'm still supporting in support of the new endeavor, and I'm absolutely going to be playing it on launch. But I do also want to take a chance, like I said, and kind of address a lot of the big arguments I've been seeing, and like I said, just kind of give my thoughts on it. And the arguments here of it's another mobile game, it looks cheap or plain, or questioning this is 2 years of development. I do kind of want to address it with one other thing, and I did say Medarot Survivor was kind of overhyped and underpromised, but they aren't necessarily completely to blame either. Um, I want to believe that a lot of the disappointment kind of also lies with the community as well, because we kind of got it in our heads that they had something really, really big for the anniversary, and they hyped up everything. And I think we kind of let our imaginations get the better of us with that one, with saying, well, it has to be a new game of some kind because they've been working on it for so long, and it has to be Medarot 10, guys. Come on, it absolutely has to be. Let's go, let's go. And kind of hyped up the bandwagon that people were expecting it was going to be a Medarot 10 release or reveal or something similar. And when Medarot Survivor was the only thing that was talked about, it kind of deflated the entirety of the hype leading up to it. So I want to say a good chunk of it also was kind of too much expectation with not enough hint or clue to really to strongly support the claim or support or support the theory. And I just that's just the only way I can really say it is it was a lot of hype, and I kind of feel I kind of feel, putting it bluntly, we set ourselves up for disappointment because we had it in our minds it was going to be this, and when it wasn't this, we got all disappointed. And a lot of people are saying, well, if you're in support of this, you're just coping because it's the only thing that Imagineers released for Metarods in the last couple of years. And you might be right. I'll admit this does sound like this is just me coping and trying to talk myself into liking it, but no. I'm genuinely looking forward to playing Medarot Survivor. I'm absolutely going to be streaming some of it as well as like a chill, cozy thing once I do get the hang of it. Um, but like I said, this I just want to kind of give my overall thoughts about it and just kind of give some constructive feedback, just as kind of a alternative take on a lot of the arguments that I've been seeing. Much like me and Ruben talked about with on my Medarot Day coverage, saying we're 100% okay, looking forward to and excited, but we also are disappointed. And I want to make that abundantly clear that I'm with you guys as well. I'm disappointed too, but like I said, I just wanted to talk about it, and this is just me rambling at this point. But aside from this, though, there actually is one other thing I wanted to talk about. That was brought to my attention just earlier tonight, actually, which is why I'm putting this thing together. Is It was an article from my dear friend Lux, who I've not talked about in a while, but basically who Lux is. It's another one of my Japanese friends who does a lot of continuous blogging on Medarot S or Medarot stuff in general. Kind of similar to how I do, but sticking mostly to a blog type forum specifically, and kind of giving his constructive feedback on things in a free space, kind of like what I do with breakdowns. But his recent article was brought to my attention on his reflection on Medarot S and Medarot Day 2024 as a whole. And I wanted to kind of talk about that as well and just kind of read off what was put here. So let me move over here just briefly. And then I'm going to pull that article up here so I can basically kind of just read along with you guys what was going on, because Lux brought up a lot of really good points with his blog, and I wanted to bring it to you guys' attention. I'll stick a link to this down in the description as well, so you can go read it for yourself. But this is basically just a really rough translation from Japanese to English, as you see here. Thanks, Google. But I just want to kind of go over it as well with his overall summary of Medarot Day. And he's made a lot of comments on what the 30th anniversary of Medarot will look like, which is about 3 years from now. But kind of looking over the overview, in this article, we will look back on Medarot Day 2024, Medarot 27th anniversary, the commemorative broadcast, link provided here, review the various numbers of Medarot S, making our own prediction on what the anniversary for the 30th means. Provided links as well, and a picture of Shushu Pop's new single, special one. Background: during Medarot Day 2024, the 27th anniversary, commemorative broadcast, it was said that the 30th anniversary is coming up, and we would like to announce something then. Loose translation by Mr. Unohei, or also known as Producer-san. This made me suddenly wonder, what will Medarot look like on the 30th anniversary? So I decided to write an entry predicting the future based on a review of various numbers, and I'll kind of go through that as well in his article here. But this is something that we as Western fans, unfortunately, just were not privy to, because we are, or a good chunk of us anyway, are just not fluent or versed in Japanese, and we most likely missed this entirely. In fact, I did as well. So it was nice to kind of see this brought to attention. Looking back on Medarot Day 2024, actually not much. Unfortunately, I had a lot of unrelated things to do in real life, so I ended up just watching the stream. So my first contact with this information was mainly on Twitter, self-proclaimed X. That's why I feel like it's been a long time since we've had such a peaceful Medarot Day. Talked about Medarot Survivor. It didn't really appeal to me. I probably won't play it, so that's the extension of my mention. So again, it was a very divisive, very mixed response to what people talked about with it. And I understand that, again, Survivor type games aren't for anybody. Same can be said for RPGs in general. In fact, kind of tying back to my What is Medarot collab with my friends, my friend Vector made a really good point too, saying that sometimes, turn-based RPG games they aren't for everybody either. And I want to argue personally that I think my take on Survivor was not necessarily to reach out to other communities and other genres, but more to kind of offer an alternative take, even if it's not fully Medarot related, as a more casual approach. Because, putting it bluntly, anyone who's looked on my channel longer than like a minute will see that there's a lot of stuff to learn and understand when it comes to Medarot as a whole. Medarot S especially, there's a lot to learn. Skills, skill types, medals, masteries, mechanics, conditions, bonuses, terrains. There's a whole lot of stuff you have to learn. And it's a really steep learning curve for a lot of folks that want to get into Medarot S. And I have personally talked to a lot of my friends who wanted to play the game, and I've had to go back and coach and talk to them a bunch of times because it's a lot to learn, and I understand that. And I want to surmise, as my personal theory, that Medarot Survivor was kind of an attempt to take a more casual approach to a game that a lot of people understand very easily, because Survivor type games are actually relatively simple in mechanics. They give you endless waves of enemies. Bullet Haven actually was a way that I've seen it explained. It's a very simple mechanic. A lot of Survivor games play almost exactly the same one-to-one, minus any special mechanics or behaviors or such personal to each title. But it's a very simple thing that can be attempted on and even applied to and updated on later. And they even stated very clear that they're going to be having a lot of really big artists contribute in the future once it launches with new models and updates. Just as an example, Yoshizaki Mine, who designed Koga Sanjo, the Changa type, is the artist for Kimono Friends, and you see that everywhere on the internet. And Kei Suwabi, who is the artist for Shadow Armor, does a lot of Fate stuff, Fate series stuff. So I gotta say, him basically being able to get away with putting Lancelot in Medarot S was honestly amazing, with so many references and nods and everything like that. So it makes it clear that it still does have a very promising future, despite it not looking like much now. But anyway, as I continue, um, on the other hand, I'm very excited for the long-awaited Shushu Pop 3. It's cute, just like the other costumes, but this time it's even cooler. The special one that was released at the same time is a rock-inspired and addictive. I'm listening to it while writing this article. I'm also looking forward to the release of Medarot S in the week of December 5th when she drops. Metatubers also have great costume concepts, and of course put the link here. I gotta say, I'm biased. I'm 100% biased. I'm going to own it right now. Shushu Pop 3, Shushu Pop 3 is absolutely adorable. I cannot say it enough. I'm just in absolute love with it. Like I thought her V2 design with the gothic ball gown dress was adorable. This one takes the cake. This version of Shushu Pop is one that you could basically just pick up in your arms, carry off, and hug the whole time. I'm still in absolute shock over it. I find it absolutely adorable. Call me coping. Go ahead. I'll own it. But Shushu Pop in general is just adorable as a whole, and I'm in love with her V3 model. So it was a fantastic time. You could absolutely tell she was just giddy as a schoolgirl being able to use her new model and showcase her new special one. Additionally, if you've not listened to this yet, I highly recommend you do. It is an absolute earbug that slaps a lot harder than it really needs to. But, moving forward. That being said, this is all meta talk. Game content can be played for a long time while maintaining its freshness, but metatubers are the ephemeral content, so I hope they will not be left alone for 3 years, but will be regularly updated. I hope that at least their statement will that they want to do a live show will come true. Well, ideally, it should have been held at Medarot Day 2020. And I understand that. I get it. They and being completely honest, I kind of believe they stalled Shushu Pop 3 on purpose uh, because her birthday was actually back at late October, but still, there was a bunch of stuff going on in Medarot S, and I understand that. But still, she was very happy, an adorable model, and I'm looking forward to supporting Shushu Pop in the future and seeing her just have fun with it, and as we see her more and more on streams and such. But moving forward, from the commemorative broadcast, now I'm very interested in. Oops. Now, I'm very interested in the part, the 30th anniversary is approaching, and I want to announce something at that time, Mr. Unohei said, loosely translated. In terms of why do you feel that 3 years from now is close, and it seems that you have the intention to announce something. And he's right. Why would you mention something 3 years out so, right now? Why would you mention that now, unless there's something down the pike? Unless he's saying it in a more generic sense of, I'm just excited because it's a milestone. I'd understand that too. But Lux continues, I suspect that these are due to comparisons with a long time period of planning for Medarot S to today, dissatisfaction with only Medarot Survivor being announced, or the impatience with the necessary preparation time for the next release. Personally, I think they've set a milestone quite far in the future. In fact, I think everyone except him thinks the same way. And I agree. It doesn't make a lot of sense why you'd mention something now unless you're planning something. And I don't want to put that bug in your head now and hype you guys up for a false hope that may or may not be something huge in the future. But realistically, Lux does bring up a point, and whether that was scripted for Mr. Unohei to say, or it was just a personal comment on the back end that was loosely translated and not necessarily taken in context, it was still worth it bringing it to attention. Going forward from here, I am actually going to pause here briefly because this video has actually run just a little bit longer than I thought, at about 30 minutes. I apologize for that, first of all. But if you guys really don't care too much for a lot of numbers and breakdowns such going forward, then you guys can close the video here. Basically, I just wanted to take a minute and kind of address a lot of the big arguments that had to do with Medarot Survivor and a lot of the overall mixed opinions and dissatisfaction, because there was a lot of really negative feedback, not just from the JP community on the PV video, but also here on the West. A lot of people are just not really enthused or satisfied with it for varying reasons. But the three reasons I mentioned are just kind of the really big ones I've been seeing the most prevalent floating around. But again, these are just my thoughts about it. So if you guys want to think differently, that is 100% fine. You can call me coping. You can say I'm just trying to argue it and make it sound good because I'm, as you guys claim, a metatuber. I'd love to think I am, but I'm not. You guys can say what you want, but if you guys are going to argue or kind of talk about it in the comments, I'm only going to ask that you keep it constructive and respectful because I don't want to start fights. I don't want to start drama because there's already plenty of that on the internet. But I do want to hear your feedback though, and I acknowledge and love hearing feedback on that. And I want to be able to kind of help people understand, especially folks that don't know, kind of help them understand both sides of the situation. Just kind of give them my overall thoughts on essentially um, why it's had such a mixed review and why a lot of people are both looking forward to and disappointed with it. But again, if that's all you really care to listen to, this is kind of where our journey ends, and you can go ahead and kill the video. But if you guys want to see the rest of what Lux said here, which was actually very eye-opening and enlightening with his theory crafting, we'll go ahead and continue. But anyway, reading the rest of the article here, numbers to handle. The numbers we'll be dealing with from now on come from similar past entries of when will Medarot come out, and he links to his blog here, and when we will update to today's situation. He mentioned, as of 11/29, the total number of Medarots is 1,165, including Lilymare, which is a new Succubus-type successor that was found in Medarot S at time of recording as an enemy-only NPC. However, I want to include Shushupat 3, so I'll make it 1166, meaning this number will be as of December 5th. Still, that is a very impressive number right here as to the number of Medarots that are currently available in Medarot S right now. That is also including that is also including a lot of. Actually, I want to say that is basically including all of the Medarots ever designed in every single game as a whole. So that is still an incredibly impressive number. But going forward, the number of Medarots appearing for the first time in Medarot S. There are 194 characters, including Lilymare, and as of December 5th, Shushupat 3, 193 are playable. By acquisition method, there are 569. For the pickup gacha, there are 232, permanent gacha 106, league gacha only 11, collaborations are 79, fierce battle farmables is 75, event collaboration or event rewards are 43, friend point gachas is 20, others such as limited times like Cross Messiah, G Metubi, and P Rokusho as basically as one-time gifts, 3, and 19 that are considered unplayable right now, including Lilymare. So like I said, this is a very big number, just of what's available in Medarot S right now. And that goes to show that in 5 years, it's made some incredible jumps in just the sheer amount of model acquisition and parts customization that is available to us right currently in the game, especially leading up to the 5th anniversary next month. So moving forward, what about Medarot S for the 30th anniversary of Medarot? From the commemorative broadcast. From the above, we were able to learn the current state of Medarot S. Now, I'm interested in what Medarot will look like on its 30th anniversary, so I'll go into more detail and look at the pace in which the numbers have changed for Medarot S. Currently, by his estimation, he's looking at estimating about 1,350 models total as far as the Medarot's library is concerned. Again, this number right here is including very specifically every single model in every game ever released. That includes all the ones that are still currently not in Medarot S, whether they've been referenced or hinted or got new art but do not have models or are obtainable in any way. So again, he's anticipating that by the 30th anniversary, about 3 years from now, this is the number we're going to be sitting at. And that's still going to be a very impressive number. But looking forward, number of Medarots appearing for the first time in Medarot S. There, specifically by the 30th anniversary, he's anticipating about 375 based on current progression, current patterns. This includes new pickups, collaborations, or something similar, or any other models that are going to be added to S exclusively as their first game of debuting. Number of playable units by acquisition method currently is 839, with over 200 collaboration units or event units, and the dominance rate is about 18%, or about 250 out of the 1350 he's anticipating. And he gave a lot of specific numbers here on that same assumption and calculation. So going forward here through some of the other graphs. What will the 30th anniversary look like? As I said earlier, I've only looked at Medarot S. It seems that things will be tough for Medarot S in 3 years, but I really hope that will continue. Other Medarot content I've noticed so far is these. The ones in bold are my strong wishes, and these are just the kind of things that he's really, really hoping and praying for in these next 3 years as we continue on from Medarot Day towards Medarot Day 2025 and up to the 30th anniversary. But just kind of scrolling through here, as far as MetaTubers are concerned, Shushu Pop Radio, tentative by Shushu Pop. Currently 3 years. He's hoping and praying that Shushu Pop will still continue to give the radio podcast as she has been. He's anticipating approximately 287 episodes by then. Medarot Pass gameplay by Cheerful Bunny. Medarot DS series has arrived, so he's hoping that Cheerful Bunny will be able to start playing a lot of the 3D games and enjoy some of those while on stream, as she's currently been playing Medarot Navi right now. Commentary by Leah Lila, explanation of Medarot S and other content, music videos, new songs from all three of the ladies coming soon. So I highly expect they're going to be doing this for sure. But again, only time will tell. Other content, Tokyo Live and new costume releases. So basically, this if they choose to have another physical event, that's kind of what he's hoping for. Previous Medarot games, however, online is currently unavailable. Is Medarot Classics Plus Plus, which a lot of people are also really hoping for here on the Western side as well. Basically, it's just a new rehashed version of the Classics collection, which has all the games, or even a Classics Volume 2, which has all the 3D games only. And that would honestly be really fun to play, to have all the collections together in one place. They did also say for anime distribution, the Medarot anime will rebroadcast between Medarot Day 2024 and 25. We already knew this was coming because they will be airing the first episode of the original anime on Monday starting next week. They will also possibly be airing the Metabot Spirits, or Damashi, anime, rebroadcasting between Medarot Days 25 and 26, and they're hoping that it will also be broadcast once again between 2026 and 27. And of course, Medarot Survivor. So, like I said, and Lux only posted this 9 hours ago, so he stays up to date with this very much so much like I do. But yeah, I honestly thought he put a lot of effort into graphing out these numbers and these overall thoughts on where he thinks and where he anticipates and estimates that Medarot S will be by the time it reaches the 30th anniversary in 3 years. And I gotta say, if you're gonna release something big or something special, that is kind of going to be the big point you're gonna be shooting for. I'm not gonna completely discount it and absolve Imagineer of saying they kind of could have handled it better and kind of explained clearly, or kind of had something else on the pipeline aside from Medarot Survivor as the really big talking point of Medarot Day 2020. I'm not going to absolve Imagineer of that, because I do kind of feel that it did fall flat pretty hard. But I do also want to give you guys one last tidbit here as a reminder. They wanted to reveal this last year at Medarot Day 2023, but they were not able to at the time because of outstanding circumstances, which I like to theorize was the lawsuit. But now that that is officially over and done, for the most part anyway, and just kind of waiting for the hammer to drop before they can finally settle it all for good, I want to say the reason why Medarot Day this year seemed kind of like it fell flat is because this announcement and this reveal was kind of late, I guess you can call it, because it was delayed and stalled by means that it just had no control over. But like I said, as I settle everything here, step back. Like I said, I'm not absolving Imagineer, and I'm not trying to cope and defend them fiercely by shutting down and refuting every single argument. I'm only just trying to use this as a platform to kind of explain my overall thoughts on it, and just kind of why I'm mixed about the whole reveal and the feedback on it as well. I'm not going to completely shut people down because their thoughts are valid and I'm open to the feedback. Like I said, if you guys want to talk about it in the comments, please do. I would love to hear your feedback on it. Please just make sure that you keep it respectful. So I don't want to start fights. I don't want to start drama in the comments section. Just keep that in mind. That's all I'm asking with. But ultimately, like I said, I'm still looking forward to Medarot Survivor. I'm absolutely going to be playing it. I did pre-register day one, and I'm going to look into enjoying it because, again, for the folks that do want to play it, I'm gonna look into what I can do on making a guide and just at least make the most basic of instructions clear so we can still play it. But yeah, that's basically all I have, is just talking about Medarot Survivor and just kind of addressing some of the thoughts I saw. If you guys agree with me, or if you disagree with me, that's 100% fine too. I understand I am kind of long-winded with this, but I do appreciate you guys for sticking with me all the way through it. If you did stick around with me this far, um, I appreciate what all of you, what each and every last one of you have done for not just Medarot as a whole, but also for me personally, and correcting me on things that either I missed or I mistranslated, or even just providing general feedback and engagement as well. I greatly appreciate. I appreciate every last one of you. Thank you so much for the support you've given to me over these last few years. I've been a content creator, and I hope to continue doing so in the future as your resident tinkerer and Metarotter. But anyway, like I said, that's basically all I have. So, with that being said, as always, I do appreciate you all for stopping in, just as you always do. And until next time, this is your host, Kura Isagami of the Medarot News Network, signing out.